Welcome to the KFA Podcast, where our mission is to keep faith alive by kicking ass.
Brand is this big, vague idea for what you want people to know you by. That's really what it is. And I just started turning that into content, both audio and visual and social and then YouTube and then podcasts and this. And like, who are you? Why should people use you? You're a real estate agent that sells X and what? And you love cooking, and you love cats, and you love kayaking, and you love Boston sports, whatever it might be. What is your thing?
How people perceive you is how they are going to do business with you, whether it's fair or not, okay? Perception is reality. And so we want to make sure that we are putting out the right perception for the people that we want to attract to our lives and to our business.
I work with a lot of successful entrepreneurs that nobody knows, which is kind of my forte. I get a lot of people who have built successful businesses, but back to your point, they didn't have a personal brand. Nobody really knew who they were, and they're moving into kind of the next phase of their life, and they're like, I don't even know how to log into my Instagram. You know, so I get a lot of entrepreneurs that say, hey, Buck, I need to work on my personal brand.
All right, welcome to the KFA Podcast. We have a really exciting episode today. Joining us, John Charles, brand new agent, and Hannah Dubyne, a rock star. Not brand new. I mean, how many years have you been? 3 years. A rock star agent who is also young, and we're just going to dive right in. And this episode is very much catered to new agents starting out and lessons that we've learned early on and starting his career off on the right foot. I will say this before we jump into things. Yeah. John, fun fact about him, I just found out, he has never showed a property yet. He's that early licensed. Yep. But he has a pending already.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'd
love to hear some about that. That's a really cool story.
Yeah. So it was my second open house just this last Saturday. Super nervous, kind of a last minute thing. My mentor just reached out to me. She said, hey, let's get it set up. And so I went there, and for the first hour it was just me, and then a lender showed up. But this couple showed up with their 2-year-old daughter. They said they're renting a couple houses down, and they were just loving everything about the house. Everything that they didn't like about the house they're renting was better at this open house. Yeah. So they liked that it was the one story. And I'm doing the Rev Up training classes with Realty One Group right now. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they talked about at open houses was to look for, or to listen for people saying, oh, my couch would look good here, or oh, this could be the kid's bedroom. Mm-hmm. So the husband was doing that exact thing. Yeah. He's like, oh, this would be great for my office. Oh, and then he's like, let me go. Can I test the water pressure? Turn on the shower? I'm like, go for it.
That's a good sign.
And so, yeah, they loved the house. And then driving home, I get a call from a number, and it's them. And he says, hey, we've never worked with a realtor before, but we'd love to move forward on this. What's the next step? So I called my mentor right away.
What's the next step?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't know. I said, yeah, we're going to set up a meeting. I'll send you all the info. Called my mentor right away. Dawn, what do I do? Yeah. So she said, I'll meet you in the morning.
Who happens to also be the listing agent on the other side of this transaction.
She is the listing agent. So
it's amazing.
I was holding it open for her. So she's always been there. Every question I have, always answers the phone. So she said, meet me in the morning. I'll get all the forms set up with you, go over them real quick, and then have them come over. I said, all right. So I've never been to the office before, but I showed up. She was there.
Quite an entrance to the office.
Exactly, yeah. So my first time in the office, and she kind of just, we had like an hour, and she kind of skimmed through everything I needed to know and got it set up with DocuSign. So then they showed up after I hyped myself up a little bit, try to build my confidence. They showed up, and we went over it. I sent it to them. They got it signed. So
it's amazing. This episode is sponsored by Fiji Water.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Thank you, Maria.
Open houses are great. That's how I started my business. I did open houses every Saturday and Sunday for the first year, pretty much every day or every weekend, minus like vacations. And that's where a lot of my business first came from. So I think as long as you're in a market that can support open houses, you have to do them.
Yeah.
And it just gets you contacts, it gets you people skills. You'll have people that come through the door that are much more experienced buyers or sellers, and you'll learn things from them.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember it wasn't an open house. It was one of my first showings before I closed the deal, and I didn't know what an HVAC was.
Things like that with the systems of the house, the materials. I feel like it's easier for guys to learn because it's ingrained in them a little bit as they grow up, but you learn it.
Yeah.
Through other
You'll
people.
pick it up through experience and
Yeah.
repetition. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was quite a way to get fired out of the gates. In
Unexpected,
this
but I'm
it's exciting.
excited. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And just being able to get experience of the first pending process and transaction under your belt that quickly, I think, just it gives you a little bit of an advantage. So, you get your feet wet, I guess, early on, which a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of, most people, what's the average, like 6 months before you even
3 to 6
get some sort of
usually
action?
what they say.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get your first?
I think it was about 2 month and a half or 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, and I think mine was probably 3 months.
Well,
something like that.
actually, the story of my very first transaction was when I still lived in Eastern Washington. You'll get a kick out of this.
Really?
I had a listing. The guy picked me because I was the only one under 40 in the entire city that was a realtor. He wanted someone young that was going to hustle. And we listed this property. He had no idea. I had no experience. And it had a house fire and it burnt down mostly like a week before closing. So that was my first experience.
Wow.
So
This was in Eastern Washington?
This was in Pullman, yeah.
Wow.
So that was a
okay.
really good learning experience. But my first actual one that closed was over here in Vancouver.
Is that a different MLS?
Yeah, that was
assume?
PAC MLS.
Okay. Are you still over there or no?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
It's very antiquated over there.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
It's different.
So I want to jump into some questions for Hannah because I think she's got a lot of advice that she could offer just any newer or someone considering getting in this business that might be listening, but also for you to kind of take some of that and hopefully run with it and apply it. I know just from John's go-getterness and how he's taken, how seriously he's taken getting into this business thus far, that he's actually the type of person that is going to apply this stuff and put the work in. So it's going to be really exciting to watch that. And I think we'll be having you on hopefully a year from now and we'll be able to talk about how you did do that.
For sure. I hope so.
So I think that'll be pretty cool to look back on. But Hannah, for you, I think I would love to have you talk a little bit about your strategies with consistency and growing the database, your emails, some of the things that might be overlooked, and I think I overlooked personally when I first started, that if you are on back to day one, would be most important for him to apply and start.
Okay. Couple of the things I first started with from day one, you mentioned my emails. I guess I overlooked that sometimes since I've been doing it for so long, but I've always sent a weekly email, and I was inspired to do that from someone I followed off of Instagram for many years.
Who's that?
Taya DeCarlo.
Okay.
In Los Angeles.
Okay.
She sent a weekend email. It was called, I can't remember, Into the Weekend with Taya, I think is what she called it. She gave it a name. So I said, okay, I'm going to send a weekly email, and I got to give it a name. So it's Weekend Happenings with Hannah.
Nice.
And it's fun. It's better than sign up for my weekly newsletter. That's kind of boring. Like, what are you going to get? No, Weekend Happenings with Hannah. That's dope. And so I did this. I remember making this email on a Sunday in the Coldwell Banker office on the west side. No one was there. I came up with the template. It was like a month after I started. And it just has my video for the week at the top. And then it has the body of the email, 3 to 5 local events happening that people would enjoy for everyone. And then at the bottom, it has a listing, a new listing. Doesn't have to be my own, something connecting to the MLS. And then maybe a piece of real estate, like graph chart, something at the bottom. And so the main point of that email was get in people's inbox every week, get the repetition, and then also see who's clicking on that property at the bottom. So if you're sending from a thing like MailChimp or Sender.net, you can go look at the clicks list, and you can see who clicked on what. That's what's really important, is to follow up the next day and see who clicked on it. And then you call those people and they're like, gosh, I was thinking about real estate. How'd you know, Hannah? Yeah. I'm like, I just have that way about me, you know? So I've done that for the last 3 years, and we very seldom miss it. Most agents will not do email marketing. And now we've ramped up the email marketing a little bit, but it's good to just start with something.
Yeah, and I was on a call that Diana Rutherford hosted recently, or last week, with Ricky Carruth. And he's huge into the weekly emails, and he just tries to build his email list. But he made a point that I never even really thought about with the email. And when you're consistently at the same time, same day, every week emailing, you're showing your audience, your people, probably starting with a smaller sphere, and it'll grow from there, but you're showing your people that you're actually in this as a profession.
Exactly.
And to not group you in with the cousin they know or so-and-so who has dabbled in real estate. And so psychologically, even if nothing ever comes from it initially, your people are seeing how serious you're taking this and that you're consistent.
Yeah.
And that matters because they want that in an agent. And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's the best way I've ever heard it put.
It's so important. There's way too many dabblers in this industry, and it's so annoying to me as someone who's actually running a business, has a payroll, has rent for an office. You have to be showing up as a professional or you're not going to last.
Right. Absolutely. So email list, you're a huge advocate of that. You think everybody should probably do that?
Yes. If you're for real, you should.
Okay. And how big was your list when you started? And
very small. It was probably like 30 people.
Okay.
It's still not that big, all things considered. I think it's maybe 400, but it's 400 very good subscribers.
Yeah.
It's only people who have inquired or have signed up for it purposefully. Like they wanted to sign up for it. Definitely don't do cold email, in my opinion.
Do you so you don't like enroll past clients or
no? I do.
Okay.
If you are engaging in real estate
business
services or you want to sign up for it because I've plugged it on all of my social medias, then you're on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so at 400, what's I mean maybe the metrics have changed a little bit, but I remember hearing like what's like 1 out of 10 people are probably going to make a move this year, something like that, 10%. So in there, you might have 40 different transactions that come just from that pond.
Yeah, and I look at those names and I see who's clicking on stuff every week, and I know a lot of people are gearing up for a purchase or sale. Yeah. So that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what else? What else do you think you should start?
This one's really simple, but I didn't implement it for a while. It's just working out of your CRM. Yeah. It's really cliche advice, but I think it's good advice. I follow kind of the traditional agent structure where in the mornings I go to the office and I follow up with my clients. I work out of my database. I work on my tasks for the day. I'm going to send Sally this property that came up. I need to check in about interest rates for this person, and I want to tell this person about the first-time home buyer thing that just came out.
Okay.
And you just have to be doing that on a daily basis because if you don't, then you're just being reactive.
Yeah. So you just have your checklist and then every day go to the office in the morning and complete it. Okay.
Yeah, and the psychology behind doing that in the morning, some agents don't, but the psychology is before your day goes haywire, before things go sideways, before everyone wants everything from you, you just get that done.
Yeah.
And you can ignore incoming requests for a couple hours in the morning.
Right.
It's possible to do that.
So time blocking your morning out. I love that because that's one thing, and you might not feel it right now because obviously it's slow and you don't have a bunch of people pulling at you right in the beginning, but there will come a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know how I'm supposed to make my contacts or whatever those commitments are.
Yes.
It will come. Because you've got 2 clients that want to see properties today, and they each want to see 5, and there's your day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. When you're talking about sending out emails and stuff, this is kind of like your people that maybe are considering or currently shopping, or just trying to get them to move a little bit?
In my you're talking about people that are followed up in my CRM. Yeah, email is part of that too. I have a thing called BombBomb where you can send videos on your email. Okay. There's other apps for it too. It's a game changer. Most people don't use it. Some people might find it tacky or annoying, but you're getting face-to-face and you're creating a personal message for people. So even if someone doesn't give you their phone number, you can connect with them on a personal basis. Okay. And I've gotten so many people that are like, oh my gosh, you made me a video?
Yeah. Right.
With, like, thank you so much for that personal video. That was so nice of you. And so I'll follow up with people via email that way as well.
So I'm assuming you're probably not a fan or a big fan of, like, drip campaigns?
I don't do drip campaigns right now, and I wouldn't be opposed to them necessarily, but I think a lot of them out there are very tacky, and they are just exactly what everyone else is doing in real estate. If I can just buy the drip campaign off of some site online, then thousands of agents already have it. And I want to do something personalized for Clark County. Like, I want to be the local expert. And so I'd rather have my assistant curate a couple emails a week and send those out to everyone.
Yeah. And it probably makes a huge difference being more personal in a world where everything's so automated.
Yes.
You stand out. And we were talking about that earlier at coffee. Like, how do you stand out?
Yeah.
I think that's a question that every realtor has spent hours and hours trying to figure out and crack the code for in their business, because we are in a sea of people who say they do the same thing as you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What about, do you have any questions for either one of us, I guess, around starting out?
For both of you, kind of, what did you think real estate was before getting into it, and then after maybe a couple months in, you realized was completely different than you thought?
That's good. You want to go?
You go first.
I thought real estate was big checks and one of the best places you could go to make good money. I got in because I wanted to make good money. But the mistake I made early on was that caused me to be a little too transactional, the opposite of the way Hannah started out.
Yeah.
So I started out chasing the guy that wants to, hunting, I guess you could say, and trying to find the next deal, trying to turn over the next stone and get another closing. And but through that process, what I didn't realize was how important relationships were, and the lasting relationships, because that's how you build on each year and continue to grow and see success. And so for me, I was too transactional. But that's just because I was focused on the money. Yeah. But I mean, I was your age, so I think a lot of kids are that way.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably been the biggest shift, is realizing that it's more about how many people you're friends with in the marketplace that know you're a realtor and you're close enough to them, and whether it's a past client or someone in your family, you're close to them because you're friends, and you also show them consistency and that you're the guy to turn to when the time's right. That's my answer.
Perfect. Yeah.
My start was interesting. I guess I'll give a little bit of a backstory so you understand my answer. By the grace of God, I was sitting on my porch in the summer of 2020 after my internship for the day was over, and I was looking for what career I wanted to do when I graduated college. I had one more year left after that summer was over, and I fell upon Tom Ferry videos. For those of you who don't know, Tom Ferry is a real estate coach. There's a lot of them out there. He's one of the biggest names. And I just binged on his videos, and I was like, gosh, if I got into this profession, I would have some flexibility, but I understand it's not 100% flexible. And I think I could do better at this just by being who I am.
Right.
Like, I could do a better job than most agents just by being the put-together individual that I am. And so I think I started off in a really good group. And if I hadn't started off in that group, my career would have been drastically different. Because if you start off in a very small pond where everyone says you have to cold call, something like that, your experience is very different. Yeah. And maybe you do think a little bit more transactionally. So for me, I always knew it was about building a brand. Tom always said, got to be on video. So I started on video from day one. I don't think I knew exactly what I was getting into. It's just one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. But I knew that I was building a business. I knew that I was not just a realtor looking for a paycheck.
Yeah.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And I think we talk about this a lot, but being able to surround yourself with people who are where you want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear it from everybody who's successful.
Yes.
You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And all that's true. And you need to get into networks. And we've talked about that too, like nationally connecting with people in other marketplaces who aren't afraid to share, tips with you that maybe they would be more reserved if you were their competitor locally. And even like for me, I feel like I've got friends that are still, my age and don't have the same ambitions as me and stuff, but I can balance that out because I devour podcasts and audiobooks, and I'm constantly feeding, Ed Milet and Alex Hermosi and all these people that understand the game at a much higher level. They don't know me, but I'm kind of able to be around them by consuming that content and always growing.
Yeah.
That's everything, is connecting with people who are where you want to be. I would be nowhere without my national networking groups.
Yeah. And every person you connect with who, you actually have a really good connection with. You know, a good question you should always ask people is like, who do you know that I should know? Like who would be able to help me in, you know, in this journey? And people love connecting you. And I think, at least for me, and maybe your experience is different, but early on, I think people loved that I was this young guy and I was working hard.
Yes.
And they wanted to help. And
yes.
I feel like I got more advice and help than the average person because
yes.
of my age.
You do. People love helping young people who are confident and seem like they could be successful. People do not like helping young people who have no confidence and seem kind of cocky and arrogant.
Entitled, yeah.
Which is really easy to fall into in the real estate profession. There's a lot of flashiness and flexing, and you'll come to realize that the people that are flexing the most a lot of times are in the worst positions financially, or they're kind of insecure. The great David Caldwell over in Portland, Oregon, he always talks about, you know, what's your profit, not what's your, don't look at your revenue at the top line. I mean, it's important, but what's your profit? And most realtors will overlook that. And you have to be looking at your profit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I definitely made that mistake.
Early
on.
It's so
chasing
easy.
the leaderboards, you know, and
which is fun.
We're competitive, and you know,
why can't we have both?
There's part of
why
that.
can't we have both?
Yeah,
but
I'm going after
don't
both.
sacrifice profit in pursuit of your volume number or your amount of deals. So yeah, you gotta treat it like a business. Shoot, I forgot.
A lot of people in this business are in the red too.
Oh yeah.
They wouldn't tell you that, but they are. Even some of the biggest names.
So choose who you follow wisely.
They are in the red.
Yeah. That's very, very true. And we were talking about that earlier too, about how, you know, you think these big names and big teams and big dollar amounts and volume and closing amounts, you think that means more success. But right now, especially during this last season, it also means more bills and more, you know, a much higher break-even point and amount of deals just to get back to zero.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people getting hurt the hardest throughout this 2023 season and higher interest rate environment are actually those people. So being able to stay lean. One thing I don't know if I've told you this before, but I think a serious advantage that you have, especially in this season, you know, coming into the next robust season where everybody's excited and whatnot again, is the fact that you have low overhead. You don't have as much to, you know, weight to carry, so you don't have to. That'll allow you the benefit of playing the long game, and not having to rush or adjust your actions just to scrape and claw and have commission breath to try and close that next deal to survive. So you think about it, like most of your competition in this marketplace, they have family and they have a lot of other pressures that are forcing them out of their consistency and actions. And you have the benefit of sticking to it. You just got to do it.
Yep, exactly.
The downside is you have less pressure and, you know, fire on your ass. So you need to make sure you keep that hunger alive. But
yeah.
Can I say something about this?
Yeah.
When I first started, I had moved to Vancouver, Camas area, and I didn't know anyone. And I decided to rent a bedroom in a 3-bedroom house with some other girls just to keep expenses low. And I did that for a while. Like, I did that in a year when my tax returns said $400,000 on them. I was renting a bedroom, but it allowed me to save money to then be able to go buy my house myself. So if you're like living with parents, living with roommates, you should try and do that for as long as you feasibly can. Because that move saved me my down payment. And it made it so that I wasn't dying every month.
And able to continue operating out of abundance, not scarcity. And I think that's the hardest part with this season is there's a lot of people that are being forced into just decisions that they wouldn't otherwise make, but they're having to act out of desperation now, not abundance, which can cause a lot of people to falter from that consistency and fall off that path. What about your favorite books? What have been some of the best books you've read that he should consume?
My favorite book of all time is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
That's the one that definitely changed my life. I read it. I tried to read it like 2019 or something, and I was like, this book sucks. It's like this, what am I, in English class, like in 11th grade or something? And I put it down. And then I picked it back up the next summer in 2020, and I was like, wow, this hits different. And I read the whole thing in like a couple days. And it definitely felt like, I don't know, God was speaking to me through that book. And it just clicked. The message is one that resonates through all of human history. It's not a flashy book.
Right.
I love that book. I try and come back and read it every year.
So you think when you first read it, you weren't just in the place to really receive and digest that info?
Yes, I totally was not. And then I picked it up another time, and it was good.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So follow Tom Ferry.
Follow Tom
Read
Ferry.
Think and Grow Rich. Have you read Think and Grow Rich?
I haven't, no.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah,
if there's only
it's a
one
good
book you can
foundation.
read, that's the one.
Perfect.
There's a lot of books out there.
Well, and it's also the type of book that if you've consumed that info, you'll start to realize the other people who understand that.
Okay.
And it's kind of like How to Win Friends and Influence People.
It's a great
Very
one.
similar.
Yeah.
You know, you start to realize certain people who have consumed that book too, and the way they operate, because it does adjust your demeanor. It changed that. Like mine would be more how to win friends and influence people, but realizing like, oh, okay, so all you have to do is help other people win, and do that over and over,
And then you win.
and then a modern version, Alex Hormozy says, nothing compounds faster than goodwill, not even money. So the more goodwill you put out in the marketplace, the more people you help. Let's even as much as like if you met a client that was in a really tough spot, but they needed to sell, and they couldn't really afford. They're trying to do FSBO because they can't afford an agent because the margins are tight, and maybe you step up and you help them for free in the beginning. That's a person that now you've deployed goodwill to, and you never know what will come back from that.
Yeah.
So.
You can, what's the quote? I always say it wrong. You can never go wrong by doing the right thing or something like that. If you do the right thing, even if it doesn't benefit you in the moment, it will come back to you at the end.
Yeah.
You can never be the agent that has to have them buy, has to have them sell. You always have to give them honest advice, even if it means you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not doing your job. And you have to mean it from the heart, too.
Definitely.
You can't just be like, well, I tell my clients whatever's best for them and not really mean it.
Yeah.
You have to mean it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
On that same call that I was talking about earlier, Ricky was talking about that. How he does not push. He saves that until there's a moment where, his clients trust him. And if he thinks they might be making a decision or backing out of something that really we can resolve, he'll play that card only when he has to help them. And when he does play that card, they trust him because they know he's not just chasing a commission check.
Yeah.
In fact, we looked at 3 homes before this one that he said don't buy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that. The beautiful thing about being a realtor is this isn't your car lot. You don't have to be worried that they're not going to buy your Ford because they're going to go get a Chevy.
You're a broker.
You're selling yourself.
Yeah.
And as long as you got that connection, you'll be able to close a deal somewhere, hopefully.
One great piece of advice I heard from an agent, it was just online, was be the buyer's dad when you take them to the first showing. So point out some of the things that are wrong with the home.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a perfect fit for them. If it's a perfect fit, great. But if there's something wrong, point it out. Don't try and hide it. And they'll be like, oh, he cares about both the positives and the negatives.
Yeah, that is
I've
good.
heard some strategies around this. One of the first, and I won't name names because he's in our
Trust
marketplace.
building.
But there's somebody I know who's very reputable guy in our marketplace, big name. And one of the first trainings, I think I was 17 when I went to the training. I didn't have my license yet, but he said that he used to, because he would drive, this is back in the day where they really wanted to drive. I don't know, do you drive your clients usually in your car?
Depends
out of state.
on only if they're in town and they need some sort of tour.
Sure. So he was very adamant that he drives all his clients around. Things maybe have changed a little bit.
Things have definitely changed
for sure,
in the last 10 years.
What he would do is he would schedule the showings, and the first showing he would put on the list, and it definitely wasn't a good fit, and he put that in there on purpose. Pull up to the house, look at it, and go, "You guys, I am so sorry I took you here. This point, the roof, bad, whatever. Points a few things out. Let's just skip it. Let's not waste our time. Let's go to the next one."
Yeah.
And he would
Let's
do that
go
on
the
purpose
extra mile
to show them that he's not just trying to sell them. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so any last words of wisdom? There's so much. I know it's like drinking through a fire hose.
Yeah. No.
But we do want to help. That's what KFA, this community. There's a lot of good people that, like we said, it's not just because you're young, but we want to see young hustlers rise up and succeed. And so we're here for you, and we can connect you to more people. But is there anything else that you'd want to tell them right now?
Stay humble.
Yeah.
The most successful people, they don't flex the most.
He's going to leave here and go, I got my first under contract a month before Hannah did.
Yeah.
No.
Good job.
Yeah.
Now, you realize that if you look at the leaderboards, which, you know, I'm always looking at the leaderboards. I want to be at the top, but a lot of times the people that are making a lot of money, they have other businesses or they're investing on the back end, and they may not be showing up at the top. Yeah. So just like stay humble. You never know who you're talking to.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I made a lot more money doing wholesale than the year that I was crushing the leaderboards, but nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
So
that's fine. No one has to know.
They don't. They absolutely don't. So silent success. Anything else?
Just for anyone new, just know that I quickly learned this. People are here to help you, and they're so happy to help. It might be scary reaching out to like adult realtors, like for me,
as
like
a 19-year-old.
like I was in high school and I texted Dayton, and it was like I was a little nervous, but then once I did it, I was like, he responded immediately. He brought up let's meet for coffee, and then he connected me with my mentor Dawn Bodine, and she's never not been there for me and gives great advice. So just don't be afraid, and definitely if you're thinking about starting real estate, reach out to agents in your area, and they'd love to help. Yeah, most of them.
Absolutely. Well, mic drop.
Perfect.
Thank you guys. That was awesome.